Did you know Victorian London hid entire fortunes beneath soggy alley bricks? Don't leave, the answer at the end of this video. You trudge through dawn mist, boots squelching as the city's chimney smoke wraps your shoulders like a grimy blanket. By your side, a wicker basket, hopeful and hollow, waiting for treasure most Londoners wouldn't poke with a cane. Mushrooms, not fancy supermarket caps, but wild ones that sprout in shady yards, abandoned gardens, and the city's secret cracks. You stoop near a dripping wall, fingers brushing over mushroom caps slick as buttered toast, though you'd be daft to spread them on one. You sniff, you squint, you poke. Is that a prized St. George's mushroom or the start of your slow Victorian funeral? Historians still argue whether early Londoners really knew their edible fungus from the ones that sent you tripping straight to the undertaker. But here you are, nose first in the grime, trusting your nose and your luck. A coach clatters by, splashing your coat. Maybe you curse it under your breath, then chuckle, better wet than hungry. Victorian mushroom hunters earned pennies from London's wealthier households, slipping prized fungus into iron pots, where rich folks pretended they were dining in woodland manors instead of smog-choked parlours. One decent patch of fairy ring champignons might cover the rent for a week, if you can spot it before the rival hunter, a bloke with half your teeth and twice your speed. By now your fingertips tingle from the cold. You whisper a quiet thank you to the fungi gods as you pluck another patch from under an old rotting cart. Maybe tonight you'll eat stew, not stale bread crusts. Or maybe you'll taste test one cap just to be sure. Only if you're feeling reckless. A tiny thrill creeps up your spine. All this damp drudgery might just pay off, and all you had to do was chase fungus through London's filth. You push open the low door of a backstreet tavern, hinges creaking like a groaning uncle after too much pie. Warmth hits your frozen fingertips as you step into the hush-hush clubhouse where London's mushroom hunters gather. Shoulders hunched over mugs of cheap ale that taste suspiciously like yesterday's rainwater. Don't worry, the fungi make up for it, sometimes. You slide onto a rickety bench beside old Bristle, who claims he once found a puffball the size of a baby's head, though nobody believes him. The air smells of wet wool, sour ale, and that earthy mushroom musk that clings to your coat no matter how many times you slap it against the wall. You grin as someone drops a sack onto the table, fresh pickings, or so he swears. You all lean in like children peeking at Christmas sweets, except instead of candy canes, it's spongy lumps that might buy tomorrow's breakfast. A hush falls when Big Nora shuffles over, the unofficial queen of fungus. Rumour says she once sold a basket straight to the royal kitchens. Historians still argue whether these secret tavern meets really shaped London's mushroom supply, or if it's just a tale told over too many pints. But you know the truth, no smart forager works alone. You swap stories, argue over which shady garden yields the best morels, and trade warnings. One wrong cap and a fancy chef turns purple at his own dinner table. Someone cracks a joke about mushroom pie surprise, the surprise being that you wake up dead. A ripple of laughter drifts up to the smoky beams. You sip your ale, eyeing the mouldy loaf on your plate, and dream about tomorrow's haul. Maybe you'll find that mythical patch under the old church steps, the one old Bristle insists he's saving for just the right moon. You'd roll your eyes, but you'll still check, because in this game, even tall tales can sprout coins in your pocket. You slip out of the tavern before dawn spills its pale tea across the cobbles. Your basket thumps against your hip, half full and hopeful, as you shuffle toward the big iron gates of a grand townhouse. One with windows so clean, they make your reflection look almost respectable. The cook here, Mrs. Plum, pays in shiny shillings for mushrooms that smell just damp enough to taste like the forest, but not so damp they taste like the gutter. She calls them earthy treasures. You call them rent. The scullery maid creaks open the door. She wrinkles her nose at your coat, which, let's be honest, could double as a mushroom patch if left too long by the hearth. You grin anyway. Last week she slipped you a crust of bread soaked in drippings. Royal chefs and fancy house cooks adore your humble finds, turning your foggy alley fungi into delicate soups for people who can't imagine plucking their dinner out of a puddle. Inside the kitchen, copper pots gleam like warm moons. You unload your haul, plump caps, tender stems, the occasional surprise slug waving hello. Don't worry, you flick it off when Mrs. Plum isn't looking. Historians still argue whether the royal kitchens truly relied on ragtag gatherers like you, or if they simply bragged about wild delicacies while buying from tidy countryside farms. But you know your fungi fill noble bellies. No carriage brings morals to London's heart faster than your frostbitten feet. Mrs. Plum eyes a shaggy ink cap with suspicion. You wink and promise it's the good kind, definitely not the sort that turns a baron's stomach inside out. She weighs it with a scowl, but slips you an extra penny for your effort. You imagine what she'd say if she knew where you found it, wedged behind a church drainpipe next to a sleeping stray cat who nearly bit your thumb off. You pocket the coins, hat tugged low, already dreaming of the next alley, the next hidden patch, the next bite of stew that isn't just potatoes and prayers. You shuffle back into the fog, coins clinking like tiny bells of victory in your pocket. Though victory in this game tastes mostly of mud and maybe a whisper of triumph. You squat beside a mossy garden wall, eyes squinting at a cluster of mushrooms that look innocent enough to fool a bishop. But you know better. Well, mostly better. One cap might mean tomorrow's breakfast. Another might mean tomorrow's undertaker. Historians still argue whether Victorian mushroom hunters had secret tests, little tricks to tell good fungus from grim fare. Some say they'd rub a piece on silver spoons to watch for tarnish, or slice a sliver on the tongue, praying the bitter doesn't linger too long. You poke the cap with your thumb, it pokes back. Or maybe that's just your imagination playing tricks. Sleepy minds can't always be trusted when it comes to spores. There's talk among your tavern crowd of a rival hunter, a sneaky fella named Vinegar Jack, who once swapped out safe caps for poisonous lookalikes just to thin out the competition. Is it true? Nobody knows, but you check your basket twice before moving on. You hum a tune, half for company and half to hush the creeping doubt that every meal might be your last. And yet the thrill, oh the thrill, keeps you crouched in muddy corners. You remember old Bristle's puffball tail, and for a heartbeat you imagine unearthing your own monstrous prize, big enough to sell not just to Mrs. Plum, but straight to the Queen's chef. Maybe they'd even invite you in, scrub you up, let you sit at the grand table. Just kidding, they'd probably make you scrub the table instead. Still, you'd have a story to laugh about next time you sip that watery ale with Big Nora. Your fingers brush another cap, speckled, soft, promising. You pluck it, sniff, hold it up to the dawn. You gamble, like every hunter before you, weighing profit against poison with nothing but instinct and hope guiding your filthy, frostbitten hands. Coins heavy in your pocket, you tip your hat to the rising sun, though it barely peeks through London's soot-laced clouds. Your basket rattles with the day's final find, each cap a tiny gamble that somehow paid rent. You trudge down an alley that smells of yesterday's fish bones and tomorrow's bread crusts. Shoes squelching in puddles you'd rather not think about too hard. Maybe tomorrow you'll find that mythical puffball, or maybe you'll catch Vinegar Jack swapping your safe harvest for his deadly doppelgangers. Or maybe you'll finally follow old Bristle's secret map, scrawled on the back of a butcher's bill, leading to a garden so lush it hums with mushrooms fat as pies. Historians still argue whether such gardens really existed in London's maze of brick and fog, but every hunter swears they caught a glimpse once, or dreamt they did. You let yourself drift, each step softer, each thought fuzzier, the street lamps flickering like sleepy eyes half-lidded. Your coat smells of earth and damp secrets. Your boots drip a silent trail of your small, stubborn victory. Somewhere a cat yowls, maybe the same stray who nearly claimed your thumb under that drainpipe. You chuckle at the memory, half wishing you'd slipped him a mushroom as thanks, though he'd probably turn up his nose. Even alley cats know better than to trust a fungus hunter's leftovers. Tonight you'll slip your coins under a loose floorboard, stew bubbling on the hearth if luck holds. You'll dream of royal kitchens and mossy walls, of fairy rings tucked behind rusted gates and laughter drifting through smoky taverns. Your eyelids grow heavy as your mind wanders the city's hidden patches one last time, hunting sleepy spores you never quite gather but always hope to find. Please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Sweet.